Please be aware, in this podcast series we talk about all areas of safeguarding, which some people may find upsetting. So please make sure you're okay listening to today's topic. Be mindful of those around you, such as children, that you might not want to listen in. Hi, I'm SSS Safeguarding Director Sam Preston.
And I'm former head teacher and content author Sara Spinks.
Today we're discussing an important but often overlooked aspect of childcare, that is kinship care. So let's start with the basics. For those who might not be familiar with the term, Sarah, what exactly do we mean by kinship care?
Well, kinship care refers to situations where children are raised by relatives or close family friends instead of their biological parents. This arrangement can either be temporary or permanent and can occur informally or through legal frameworks such as child arrangement orders, CAOs, or special guardianship orders, SGOs.
So essentially, it's about keeping children within their family or close network when they can't live with their parents. And in doing that, it provides them with a sense of stability and continuity, yeah?
Yeah, that's right, yeah.
Now, there's different types of kinship care arrangements. So I think it would be useful just if you could walk us through some of these, Sarah. So first of all, let's start with what is called informal kinship care.
Well, this happens when a family member or close friend cares for a child based on a private agreement with the parents. So in this case, the parents retain parental responsibility and the local authority doesn't play a significant role.
Okay. So you mentioned them earlier, what are child arrangement orders?
Well, child arrangement orders are granted by the family court and determines who the child will live with or visit and for how long. The kinship carer shares parental responsibility with the parent until the child turns 18, unless the court specifies otherwise.
Right, okay. So what are special guardianship orders then?
Well, these orders give the kinship carer parental responsibility and allows the child to live with them permanently. However, for significant decisions like changing the child's surname, court permission is required.
Right, okay. And finally, what's kinship foster care then?
Well, kinship foster care involves caring for children under the local authority's care. The kinship carer is approved as a foster carer, either temporarily or after a full assessment. And this can be arranged through a voluntary agreement under Section 20 of the Children's Act 1989 or a care order issued by the family court.
It's interesting how these arrangements can range, isn't it, from informal agreements through to more formal legal orders, isn't it? So what are the benefits? What's research telling us the benefits are for children in kinship care, Sarah?
Well, research has shown that children in kinship care often fare better than those in other non-parental care settings. Some of the key benefits include more stable and permanent living arrangements, which can lead to fewer disruptions in a child's life.
Yeah.
Higher levels of employment in later life. Research has shown that possibly due to the stability and the support they receive, that's better for them.
Right.
Sort of better social and emotional well-being, as they are often with caregivers who they know and know them well. This can provide that sort of emotional support. There's also even improved physical health compared to children in other types of care. And there's a greater likelihood of staying with siblings, which is really crucial for sort of maintaining those family bonds.
Yeah.
Finally, really a stronger sense of being loved and cared for, which I think is foundational, really, for a child's development.
Yeah, just reflecting when you said the greater likelihood of staying with siblings, because it is a huge challenge for local authorities when children can't remain at home to actually find placements where children can be placed together. And I know in my own experience, I've been involved in situations where there's a lot of When I say out of area, I mean really out of area. So it's not just the next town, it could be the next city, and you could have children placed in 3 or 4 different cities. It's not ideal, but it's just a data thing. So I can really identify with that, how that could really facilitate when, let's face it, it's a situation that it's going to be, although children are amazingly resilient, it's an incredibly difficult time. And to further compound things by not only sort of removing them from the setting that they've known to actually be removed from their siblings, it's, the impact of that really is massive. So there's obviously significant benefits with kinship care, but I also imagine it can be challenging for the carers. So maybe it'd be useful to just sort of reflect on some of the difficulties that they might face.
Oh, you're absolutely right, Sam. Kinship carers often face significant challenges. Many of them receive minimal support, both financially and emotionally, despite the important role that they play. The cost of caring for a child, combined with the emotional strain, that can be really overwhelming. There's also the legal complexities that can come with formalising the agreement. They can be daunting for carers, who are often thrust into the role unexpectedly. And the need for more government and institutional recognition and support, I think, is really critical in this area.
Yeah, that brings us to the government's role in supporting kinship care. And it's just not to go off at a tangent, but it's interesting that we're really seeing a focus in keeping children safe in education. People are really talking about kinship care now, whereas before you really didn't hear an awful lot about it. So the former government, obviously at the time of recording, we've had a change of government. Former government, just prior to the election, recognised the importance of kinship care, and they issued a document. It was called Championing Kinship Care, the National Kinship Care Strategy. And I think that was published in December 2020. I think it was 23. So just broadly, what's the outline strategy of this document?
Well, in the strategy, kinship care is broadly defined as any situation where a child is raised by a friend or family member who isn't their parent. And this includes informal arrangements like private fostering, the CAOs and the SGOs and the kinship foster care. The strategy aims to empower kinship families by providing the necessary resources and recognition, really, to ensure those better outcomes for the children in their care.
And so that's formalised, isn't it? It's really formalising that, isn't it? And the benefit of that is once you do that, then there's accountability there, isn't there, as well, which is also really important. So I think it's really encouraging to hear that there is a national strategy for kinship care in place. Another area of interest is education, I think. I know we've spoken before about the role of virtual school heads, and maybe you may want to just reiterate what a virtual school head is, Sarah, but also what's their role? How are they supporting children in kinship care?
Well, I think in education, I always think of the virtual school head as being somebody who's primarily concerned with children in care, and their role is to be almost like the loco parentis with children in care. But virtual school heads have a really critical role in supporting the educational needs of children in kinship care too. Their responsibilities include highlighting these children's specific needs, promoting practices that support the educational attendance and engagement, and providing advice to kinship carers. And this support helps carers navigate the education system and advocate for the child's success, ensuring that their educational needs are met despite the challenges they might face at home. And this has been really highlighted in this year's KCSIE 2024. It's quite embedded in there for the first time.
Yeah, it is, and it's a real welcome. There wasn't a huge amount of update this year in KCSIE, but that was certainly something that was really welcome to see that feature so strongly. So, what about the role of inspectorates? I know inspectorates like Ofsted play a vital role through frameworks like the Inspecting Local Authority Children's Services. Do they evaluate local authorities' support for kinship care?
Yes, they do. And they access how well local authorities support kinship care arrangements, sort of identifying the strengths and the areas that need improvement. And their evaluations help ensure that local authorities are providing the necessary support to kinship carers and the children in their care, ultimately aiming to enhance the progress and experience of these children.
Yeah. I mean, it sounds like there's a lot of focus on improving the support for kinship care. And I think everybody would agree that that's really important. But clearly, there's still work to be done. Just having a strategy and just having sort of formal requirements within an inspection process, there's a lot more that actually has to sit below that, isn't it, in terms of supporting the everyday practitioners and frontline practitioners. So what do you think, and I know I'm putting you on the spot here, but what do you think is the most important message to get out there about kinship care?
The most important message is that kinship care is a vital form of childcare that often offers better or the best outcomes for children who cannot live with their parents. However, kinship carers, they do need more support financially, emotionally, and legally to continue to provide these benefits.
Absolutely, absolutely. It's such a challenge that, there really needs to be that infrastructure. And that sort of goes back to what I was alluding to when I was talking about what sits beyond the inspection process and sits beyond, it's about having that infrastructure, which, sadly, across all areas of children's services has been depleted. There really needs to be a focus on how we can best support those that are undertaking that role. I mean, I think the government strategy has definitely increased awareness, and that should lead to better recognition, and it should lead to better resources for kinship carers. It's clear that while it provides many benefits for children, it's a role that requires more recognition and support. And I think ultimately, if we can get that right, if we can get that underlying infrastructure right, that will help ensure that the children in their care, they can thrive.